Okay, welcome back to the Eastern Business Report right here on the Afia Business Morning. Nigeria's GDP has been rebased to reflect 2019 economic realities, and the numbers are eye-opening. The economy is now valued at 372.82 trillion naira, 30% minus 30% larger than earlier estimates. And in fourth quarter of 2025, real GDP grew 3.13%, led by the services sector, 57 point, while trade now continues over 17 and agriculture about 25.8. The informal sector's share also rose to 42.5%, giving long overlooked regions like the Southeast more visibility in national output. So what does this data shift mean for planning, funding, and the Southeast voice in the Nigeria's economy? Joining me on the Eastern Business Reports this morning is Professor Franklin Ngwu. He is an economist and director, LBS Public Sector Initiative. He's also a professor of strategic management and governance with Lagos Business School. He previously served as a senior policy and research consultant with African Development Bank Group. You're welcome on the program, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. Let's start from the top. What exactly does this rebasing of Nigeria's GDP mean, and why do you think the base year changed to 2019?
Rebasing GDP is a normal process in managing the economy, and of course, it is normally done every 5 to 10 years. And the reason is to capture current realities and also the structure of the economy. So if you look at Nigeria, remember that they used 2019 for this rebased GDP. So now the reason they used 2019 is because 2019 was the year before COVID-19 started. So it means that 2019 was the right year to really capture all the structures, different activities in the Nigerian economy that will give us a better assessment of the situation. Before this rebased GDP, 2010 was used as the base year. So now they've moved it from 2010 to 2019 to capture different activities like the digital economy, informal sector, and other aspects of the economy, so that we can really know the size of our GDP. And also because things are changing and population growth is happening, so many things are happening. So it's a normal expected policy procedure that we normally use to capture the true situation of the economy and use it.
How often should a country rebase its GDP? Would you say Nigeria's was long overdue?
It was due. It's normally done 5 or 10 years. Okay. It's normally done 5 or 10 years. So some people will choose to do every 5 years. Some people will choose to do every 10 years. But as I said, it depends also on the economic activities you have in the economy, the structure of the economy, if it's changing rapidly. And of course, we know we are now in the age of so many things happening at the same time. Information technology, digital economy, blue economy, so many things, so many sectors are opening up and coming up. So it is the right thing to do to properly capture what is going on. But even with the rebased GDP, it's not really about saying that we are now better. We are not really better because we are still number 4 in Africa. We are still behind South Africa, Egypt, and I think Algeria. And also remember that some years back, during Jonathan's regime, our GDP was $520-something billion. Now we are $250-something billion. It means that we've actually gone down by almost half, which is not encouraging, and it also gives us an opportunity to properly rethink and vigorously pursue more economic growth and reforms.
Yeah, if we look at things, you'd see that the new base year showing that it showed a significant expansion of the economy. Now, from a public policy standpoint, what does this new GDP figure tell us about Nigeria's economic direction? Do you think this expanded GDP reflects statistical updates, or does this suggest real structural improvements of the economy?
I think it provides different opportunities to review things. One, I will not say that it's is not something that we are supposed to be very excited about, because as I said earlier on, our GDP was over $500 billion before. Now is coming down to about $250 billion. So it means that we've gone down. However, when we take into consideration other factors like COVID and other maybe economic policies that were not properly implemented and executed, particularly during the PMB regime, we can say that even when we compare this 2025 GDP to 2024, there are signs that some sectors are improving, particularly the non-oil sector. But if we also look at it critically, the other subsectors that are supposed to be the engines of growth, particularly agriculture, performed abysmally in this last quarter. I think it grew by just 0.1%. Crop production was positive, but livestock declined by over 16%. So which brings agriculture to about 0.1 or something like that. So agriculture and manufacturing remain the key sectors that we're supposed to use to promptly jumpstart Nigerian economy, but it's not performing very, very well as it's supposed to be. So this rebased GDP provides an opportunity for the government at the federal level, at the state level, at the local government level, to rethink the reforms they are implementing, to also look at the reforms and say, what can we do differently? And also, are there new reforms that needs to come in? Are there structures that we need to reinvigorate? Are there things that we should do differently to improve what we are doing? Because if you remember as well, population, we're also having increasing population, so which means that we are not even where we are supposed to be as some years back. And remember also that the president said that the target is to have a $1 trillion economy. So if our target is to have a $1 trillion economy, and 2 years after this government came in, we are still at $250 billion, it means we have a long way to go. And we are told that we are growing at about 3.1%. So which means that if we continue to grow at 3.1%, there is no way we will achieve the $1 trillion economy. If we are supposed to achieve $1 trillion, we are supposed to be growing around 12% to 15% to be able to achieve the $1 trillion economy.
So looking at this, where do you think the federal government should focus on the next budget cycle?
I believe that the federal government has a lot of work to do, given the size of the federal government, given the powers of the federal government. And so I will list some few reforms that I think that are necessary. There's supposed to be more coordination and synergy between the federal government and the state government. I believe that while the president is visiting different states, he can devote one full week and say, I'm going to Northwest to sit with the governors, key private sector leaders, and say, what are the areas of comparative advantage and areas of coordination and synergy that we can have between the federal government and the North Central region. After North Central, he can also do the same thing for Southeast for 1 week, just proper coordination, proper synergy. And he will do it for all the regions, South, Southwest, Northeast, Northwest, so that there will be proper coordination and synergy across between the federal government and the state government. And it's now expected that once they do that, the state governors should do the same thing with the local governments. I'm sure you remember that we had what we call NEEDS, that is Economic Power and Development Strategy. We have SEEDS. I think we have something like NEEDS as well, which talks about local government. So these things are there. So the reforms that have already been started should be rejigged and also further supported to really trickle down very well across the states and local governments. I also think that it's time for us to start rethinking what we are doing in Nigeria in terms of the structure of governance. Does it really support what we are trying to achieve? The size of government is too much. It's time to say we really need to do 4 years. You now seek re-election. You come back again after 4 years. I think some people are suggesting, which I agree, that a single term of 6 years might be more appropriate. It will bring down the cost of governance. It will bring down the cost of campaigning. It will bring about focus on governance, not on politics. I also think that it's time to say, okay, we really need 3 senators per state, and the number of House of Reps that we need. Why don't we say we can have 1 senator per state and 3 House of Reps per state? And so there are so many things that we need to rethink, but a focus particularly is with regards to agriculture and manufacturing. So what is good and what we have in Southeast, what is good and what we have in Northwest, what is good and what we have in North Central, Northeast, Southwest, so that we can say that in the next 2 years, they are supposed to be export from these different regions, so that we can earn more foreign exchange, and also provide food for Nigerians domestically.
Yeah, do you think state creation, there's been this very heat on state creation recently. Do you think this would also, or this is also a way forward for improving the GDP of the country?
I mean, there are agitations for state creation. Some of them are very valid, at least for equity. So for instance, the Southeast is saying that there is the only region with 5 states. Other regions have 6 states and Northwest 7 states. So in terms of equity, it's valid, and it is something that has to be considered. However, in terms of governance and in terms of making it to work to improve the economy, then that has to be properly examined, in the sense that the states we have now, I believe that if there is a better synergy. Let me focus on Southeast now, where we have 5 states: Anambra, Enugu, Abia, Imo, and Ebonyi. I believe that the governors of these Southeast states can come together and say, what is it that we're going to offer Nigeria? We know that South, they have oil and gas. We have a bit of oil and gas in Southeast, but we can also develop something different. Maybe one or 2 or 3 agricultural produce, and say, this is what Southeast is known for. And we're going to supply this to Nigeria and also supply to outside Nigeria to earn exports. We have excellent arable and fertile lands across the region, not only in Saudi, but across Nigeria. And this is what we are supposed to be doing in other parts of Nigeria, not just Southeast. So I think that as I said earlier on, we're supposed to be growing at about 12, 13, 15% to be able to say that we want to achieve significant, sustainable, and inclusive growth.
Talking about what the Southeast can give to the nation, the informal sector, where the Southeast is strong, was often underrepresented or reported in the past GDP figures. But with the recent rebasing, its share rose by 2.6%, from 41.4% to 42.5%. Do you think this has finally captured the true economic role of the Southeast, or is it still being overlooked?
I think that the informal economy remains a limitedly untapped and captured segment of the economy, in the sense that if you look at what is going on across the informal segments of our economy, it's huge, and I'm not sure it's properly captured. But it is a step in the right direction of properly engaging the informal sector leaders and seeing how we can formalize it. Because in this, many people believe that the informal sector is somehow might be higher than the formal sector of the economy. And if we now bring it down to Southeast, the informal sector in the Southeast is also huge. But as I emphasized earlier on, this is an area that the governors, the local government chairmen, should actually tap into to see how they can bring back, or how they can properly integrate the informal sector and the formal sector to be able to really support the Southeast economy. And before this rebasing, Southeast GDP was about about $33.7 billion. With this rebasing, we are maybe a rough estimate will be maybe about $45 billion. So it has moved. However, in terms of percentage to the Nigerian GDP, so we have about 372.82 now in Naira terms. In Naira terms, Southeast GDP is about 69 or 70 trillion Naira, which represents about 18% of the total GDP. So if a whole Southeast is doing just about 20% of the total GDP, it shows that we have a long way to go and we have a lot of work to do. So in dollar terms, as I said, that's about 45 billion. When you look at the total GDP of Nigeria, they're about 250 something billion. So doing only just about, as I said, 18% or 20% is not very, very good. And this really puts the task to our governors, to our local government chairman, to all our leaders to say, Southeast is known for entrepreneurship. Southeast is known for hard work. Southeast is known for industrialization. Southeast is known for trade. Southeast is known for agriculture.
Exactly. So do you think this data represents what Southeast is really known for? Because we have big markets. Southeast is like the commercial hub of the country. We have markets like Onitsha, we have Aba, where even people in Lagos come to get goods from. So do you think this data really represents the real data of what the Southeast market brings to the GDP?
It might not totally capture all the segments of the informal sector or the Southeast economy, which is the same thing for other sectors as well. But as I said, this is a good step. It's a step in the right direction. It's now left for the leaders of Southeast. I keep emphasizing the governors and to coordinate with the local government to properly integrate more of our informal economy into the formal economy, so that in the next rebasing or in the next capturing, we can also say, you didn't look at this, you didn't look at this. Nothing stops the Southeast to come together and also do their own calculation and say, this is our calculation, this is what we think, and they can now meet with the National Bureau of Statistics to compare and contrast. Maybe there are gaps that can be closed, maybe there are areas that they have not been captured. But if you visit Southeast, you also believe or you also see and observe there has been a decline in activities. I think this has to do with the perceived insecurity that we have in the Southeast, which sometimes can be exaggerated. But as I said, it provides an opportunity for the governors to sit up and say, how can we turn this huge potential that we have in the Southeast into productivity, into growth, into development, and into more inclusiveness.
Okay, you spoke about Southeast governors coming to unite and using this for the good of the region. The other day I was speaking with one of the business analysts, and we're talking about CX, Southeast Investment Company, and he said if the governors do not come to unite, they won't get anything out of this company. Now, do you see this? Do you see the governors coming? Do you see this unity between the governors? But it seems like there's a bit of this unity, or would I say disagreement between the Southeast governors?
I mentioned the issue of people that we need to rethink the structure of governance in Nigeria, where I suggested that I think that this idea of 4-year term might not be suitable for this country, because at the end of the day, politics seems to dominate everything. So you find out that the first 10 governors in Southeast and other parts of Nigeria are all involved more with regards to politics in terms of their re-election. The same thing happens at the federal government. And this has more or less polarized what we are supposed to be doing in the states and in Southeast in particular. So if you look at Southeast now, Soludo of Anambra State is in APGA, Hope Uzodinma, Imo State is in APC, Nwifuru of Ebonyi is in APC, Abia is Labour, Enugu is PDP. So you find out that they belong to the different parties. And of course, maybe due to other factors, we haven't really seen or observed that synergy required to drive regional development. It's not there. We haven't, in terms of their meetings, in terms of their communiques, in terms of their engagements, they have to do a lot more. We are hoping and praying and encouraging them to really come together and to see what they can do different. And this leadership role actually should be for somebody like Soludo and Hope Uzodinma that are more or less second-term governors, because Soludo is now going to election for a second term, and Hope is already in his second term. So we believe that they should actually provide more leadership and more synergy of the governors, which we are not seeing at the moment.
All right, thank you so much, Professor Franklin. Before we let you go, with this rebased GDP, that we are seeing now, what does this present for Eastern states to improve the economic planning and regional integration?
It does provide huge opportunity. So if you look at Southeast or even Eastern Nigeria, from Enugu to Oka is just 45 minutes or 50 minutes. From Enugu to Onitsha, maybe an hour, 15 minutes. From Enugu to Umuahia is 1 hour something. From Enugu to Owerri is about 2 hours. From Enugu to Ebonyi is about less than 1 hour. And if you now say, okay, let's move from Enugu to Port Harcourt, which is the seaport, or Calabar, is maybe about 5 hours. So this provides a huge opportunity for the Southeast and Eastern Nigeria to say, okay, how can we look at macro projects that will enable integration, that will enable growth across the Southeast, across Eastern Nigeria. So a typical example is from Ubolafo in Enugu State or Enugu Ezike to Port Harcourt. Let's suppose there is a rail that you can use to move goods from Ubolafo, from Ihamufu, from Uzowane, all the way to Port Harcourt where you can export it. Imagine if there is a rail line from Ebonyi State to Port Harcourt where you can export. It means that you can be in Nsukka and you'll be in Enugu in 20 minutes. From Enugu, you can be in Port Harcourt in the next maybe 1 hour by rail. So this provides a very good opportunity for them to sit back and say, what can we do differently? Because the size of the land is not big, which now provides an opportunity for more integration, for more synergy to identify key projects, particularly transport infrastructure, that we can use to achieve what we want to achieve. Another area that they need to come together is in the area of insecurity. To come together and say, oh, we need to make sure that Southeast is secured, Southeast is safe, so that farmers can return to farm, so that we can actually support them to produce more, as the case may be. Another area that they can look into is agriculture. They can say, Anambra, what are you good in? Focus on 2 items. Enugu, what are you good in? Focus on 2 items. Ebonyi, the same thing. And by the time they do this, we should be able to achieve something. I remember mentioning that in one of my engagements, that India in 2023 made $93 billion from coconut alone in 1 year. So the question is, with all the palm trees we have in the Southeast, can we rethink it and say, how do we make sure that Southeast becomes a palm oil or palm tree hub for Nigeria? And of course, we can use it to achieve a lot. The 2 firms that are focusing on palm oil in the Nigerian stock market, Presco and Okomo, are doing excellently very well. Their share price above 1,000, one of the best traded stocks in Nigeria. So, and that is the area we have in Southeast, which we are not tapping at all. Of course, Presco is not in Southeast, Okomo is not in Southeast. So what are we really offering Nigeria? These are the areas that the governor should come together and synergize with the private sector leaders in the Southeast, which we have, local government, and say we have to do things differently.
Thank you so much, Dr. Professor Franklin Ngwu, for that valuable insight. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And that's all we can take on the Eastern Business Report. Till I see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. for another edition of the Afia Business Morning. I am Marvelous Apuamaga saying have a lovely day. And of course, up next is Oni Afia. Thank you for watching.